we're gonna show everybody that we know this league is good with or without Caitlin Clark. We're gonna prove it. Once you talk to your owner buddies and they say, look how much we made. I mean, the Indiana Fever came to town. Look how much we're making. The WNBA's regular season schedule announced Wednesday, including 19 games moved to different arenas. Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever have significantly fewer of those games. Minnesota Lynx are already in NBA arenas, removing any need to move games for bigger crowds. They would like you to believe, oh, well, you know, she got injured last year. We don't want to move. We don't want to commit to a bigger arena.
Operating a business that limits its primary revenue source is a rare economic strategy, yet it appears to be the current approach within the WNBA front offices. The league is entering an experimental phase where the growth of the Indiana Fever is being moderated through smaller venue allocations, a decision that prioritizes long-term strategy over immediate financial returns. The 2026 schedule reveals a significant shift in league priorities. Last season, the demand for Caitlin Clark led to 9 Indiana road games being moved to larger NBA-sized arenas to accommodate crowds that far exceeded the standard 7,000-seat capacity. For the upcoming season, that number has been reduced to 4. While this might suggest a general move away from venue upgrades, the data shows the opposite. The total number of venue moves across the league has actually increased from 15 to 19. The league is utilizing larger stages more frequently, but is specifically providing fewer of those stages to its most significant commercial draw. League officials often cite player health and caution as the rationale for this pullback. They point to the injury Clark suffered last season, suggesting it is irresponsible to commit to 20,000-seat arenas if a star player might be sidelined. However, the market has already tested this theory. When Clark was unavailable, attendance remained high, and gate receipts continued to outperform the rest of the league. Indiana's road attendance averaged over 15,000 fans per game, nearly 4,000 more than any other team. The Fever brand has proven to be a consistent draw regardless of the injury report, yet the team continues to be scheduled in smaller buildings. This decision-making process is driven by the individuals managing the league's legacy. Owners such as Renee Montgomery of the Atlanta Dream and Sheila Johnson of the Washington Mystics serve as guardians of the WNBA's history. Johnson has been vocal regarding the distribution of recognition, publicly questioning why individual accolades are not spread more broadly across the league. While this sentiment emphasizes collective value, professional sports typically capitalize on individual stardom. Last season, both Atlanta and Washington moved their games against Indiana to NBA arenas. This year, neither team has done so. By choosing 7,000-seat caps, these franchises are effectively limiting their own ticket revenue. These scheduling choices appear to be a strategic attempt to decenter a single player from the league's success. If the WNBA can maintain its momentum with fewer high-capacity Fever dates, ownership can claim that growth is collective rather than individual. However, revenue is rarely dictated by philosophy. For franchises that have spent years seeking financial stability, leaving a 13,000-seat difference on the table is a substantial gamble. Moving a game to a major arena can cover a team's travel, marketing, and expansion fees in a single night. Declining that opportunity represents a significant opportunity cost. The league's expansion strategy further complicates this narrative. The WNBA is highlighting Toronto's entry into the league, moving 5 of those games to major venues in Montreal and Vancouver. This allows the league to report an increase in total venue moves while shifting the focus from the proven draw in Indiana to a geographic experiment in Canada. The objective is to frame the growth of the sport as a matter of international reach and new market development rather than the influence of a single player. There are also practical logistical factors involving the collective bargaining agreement. With the 2026 season facing labor uncertainty after players opted out of the current deal, arena managers are prioritizing stability. High-traffic NBA buildings often prefer guaranteed events, such as concert tours, over WNBA dates that might be subject to labor-related changes. This environment has resulted in the Fever being treated as secondary inventory in the scheduling process. The league does maintain a degree of flexibility. Historically, venue upgrades are not always finalized during the initial schedule release. Last year, teams like the Chicago Sky and Atlanta Dream announced venue moves months into the season as demand became undeniable. This allows the league to initially project a league-first narrative while retaining the ability to pivot toward larger arenas if financial pressures or fan demand become too great to ignore. A selective use of viewership data is also being used to support the current strategy. The league and Nielsen have highlighted record ratings even in games where Clark did not play, using this as evidence of a higher floor for the entire product. However, audience behavior suggests many viewers were still following the Fever storyline, monitoring the team's performance in her absence. The upcoming season will serve as the ultimate test of whether this audience is truly sticky or if they are primarily invested in a specific narrative. In professional sports, ideology eventually meets the reality of the ledger. While the league may champion the idea that it is bigger than any one player, the difference between a 7,000-seat sellout and a 20,000-seat sellout is a matter of institutional health. The WNBA is currently betting that it can establish a stable, broad-based machine that does not rely on a single star's gravity. The true direction of the league will be revealed in late winter announcements. Matchups that are suddenly upgraded to larger arenas in February or March will indicate whether internal revenue projections are meeting expectations. These decisions will expose the reality behind the public narrative. The finances of the 2026 season will eventually determine if the league has become a self-sustaining powerhouse or if it still depends on the singular draw of a superstar. The financial implications of these scheduling decisions extend beyond the gate receipts of a single night. They directly impact the league's long-term media and sponsorship valuation. The WNBA recently secured a landmark media rights deal valued at approximately $2.2 billion over 11 years. This valuation was built on the back of record-breaking viewership numbers, the vast majority of which were driven by Indiana Fever broadcasts. By reducing the number of games played in high-capacity venues, the league risks altering the visual scale of its product for television audiences. A sold-out 17,000-seat arena communicates a different level of cultural relevance than a 3,500-seat college-style gym. For broadcasters and advertisers, the bigness of the event is a commodity in itself. When the league artificially caps the physical environment of its most popular team, it creates a ceiling on the optical growth that sponsors use to justify increasing their spends. This tension between individual star power and collective identity is not unique to the WNBA, but the current management's response is, historically, professional leagues like the NBA have leaned into superstar gravity to lift the entire ecosystem. In the 1980s, the NBA did not attempt to de-center Larry Bird or Magic Johnson to prove the league could survive without them. Instead, they used that specific rivalry to subsidize the growth of smaller markets. The WNBA's current trajectory suggests a fear of this dependency. By treating the Fever's popularity as a localized phenomenon rather than a league-wide engine, the front office is attempting to build a foundation that is resistant to the departure or injury of a single player. However, this strategy ignores the reality of the rising tide effect. When the Fever play in a 20,000-seat arena in Washington or Atlanta, the local team keeps the revenue, the local fans are introduced to the home roster, and the local economy benefits from increased foot traffic. Capping that attendance does not protect the other teams. It simply limits their ability to capitalize on the moment. The upcoming labor negotiations under the new collective bargaining agreement add another layer of friction to this venue strategy. Players have officially opted out of the current deal, seeking a significant increase in salaries and a larger share of league revenue. This creates a logical inconsistency. The league is asking players to accept a revenue-sharing model while simultaneously making decisions that intentionally limit that revenue. If the players' union can demonstrate that owners are leaving millions of dollars on the table by refusing to move games to larger arenas, it becomes a powerful lever in negotiations. The owner's pride tax effectively becomes a player tax when the total pool of basketball-related income is suppressed by scheduling constraints. This could lead to internal conflict between the players, who want to maximize their earnings during their peak years, and the owners, who are focused on a decades-long narrative of institutional stability. Furthermore, the scarcity model being applied to Fever tickets has created a distorted secondary market. By keeping games in smaller venues, the league ensures that ticket prices on resale platforms like StubHub and SeatGeek skyrocket. While this creates a sense of exclusive demand, the league and the individual franchises do not see a cent of that secondary markup. If a ticket with a $50 face value sells for $500 because the venue is too small, that $450 difference goes to a third-party broker rather than into the team's operations. This is a massive leak in the league's economic bucket. Expanding to NBA-sized arenas would allow teams to capture more of that value directly, lowering the barrier to entry for casual fans while maximizing the team's internal profit. The selective focus on other stars, such as Aja Wilson and the Las Vegas Aces, also highlights the inconsistency of the league-wide growth narrative. While the Aces have seen significant and deserved success, their attendance growth has been managed differently. The league has not applied the same level of caution or experimental moderation to other high-performing markets. This suggests that the scheduling of the Fever is not just about logistics or safety, but about managing the specific influence of one individual's brand. The league is currently engaged in a balancing act, trying to benefit from the Caitlin Clark effect without appearing to be defined by it. As the 2026 season approaches, the pressure to maintain this strategy will likely face the reality of the quarterly report. Corporate sponsors, many of whom signed on specifically to be associated with the surge in WNBA popularity, may begin to question why their branding is being seen by 7,000 people in person rather than 7. The commercial reality of professional sports is that growth is rarely linear and rarely convenient. By trying to force the current boom into a more equitable or controlled container, the WNBA is testing the patience of its investors and its audience. The results of this experiment will be written in the empty seats of the arenas they chose not to fill, and the secondary market prices they chose not to capture. In the end, the market typically finds a way to correct for artificial scarcity, whether the league offices are ready for it or not.